Billy. What's going on, brother? Great to see you.
How are you, Joe? Good to see you. Thanks for having
Everything.
me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I can't wait to talk about your solo tour. I can't wait to see your solo tour. Even though I've been to every Billy Sherwood related event since the Talk Tour, it's your first official solo tour.
Yeah,
That's
I've
really
had,
exciting, man.
I've done some spotted solo things along the way over the years, but it's quite some time ago. I mean, the Iridium gig,
Yeah,
that's quite a while ago now.
that's right.
Um, and as I said, it's basically the same group, but with Scott Connor from Cirque on drums.
Yeah,
And I said to those guys, I know it's a lot to get up and running, and I'm kind of I'm not the most fun guy in rehearsals because I want things to be detailed and get nailed. I said, but the effort that we're going to put in, we're going to do more of these because the last time I did this and we played the Iridium, I was still making a lot of records,
right.
and so I was committed to all kinds of things after that I couldn't just continue on and focus on this and do it. But I just got this sort of inside feeling last year when I was on the road, and in large part, the tour manager Andre, who is handling this, sort of inspired me to say, "Yeah, go for it." You know what I mean? He's like, "You should be doing that." I'm like, "Yeah, it would be fun to do that, and let's just keep doing it once we get it operational because it is
Oh,
such an effort to get it up and running." I mean, I left London, whatever it was, 4 weeks ago, and I have not had a day off just in terms of like doing this, that, and the other with this project and trying to get it up and running, which is a lot.
yeah.
But it's so worth it because playing some of this material, I haven't played, we're playing Lonely Man from the Logic album. The last time I played that, you weren't born yet for
Yeah.
openers.
Wow, that's very wild.
And it was like, I think it was, I want to say 1987, baby, or 85, somewhere in there. I've lost
Yeah.
track. We opened up for Supertramp in
Yeah.
LA and a couple other places. And that's the last time I've played that song. So
That's
as
wild.
I sit here in my studio getting my world together, it's just a trip, So it's fun to revisit all this material and it's inspiring to want to do.
So what I think is really cool for people to dial into, right? You're talking about the Logic album, which was produced and involved a number of the guys from Toto and was one of the, if not the biggest launch of your career working with bigger names, right? So
Well, that was the beginning of it
yeah,
all, really, And I mentioned this on some thread just recently. Someone was asking about Logic, this, that, and the other, and I was reminded, that Steve Picard, David Page produced the record, of course, with Greg Ladani. That's what happened. But the initial point of contact with Toto was through Jeff,
oh
um, who came. We used to rehearse at this place in North Hollywood called Leeds Rehearsal Facility, which was Toto's like main, base camp for before they
yeah,
toured. That's where they worked and make, writing and stuff. So we rehearsed next door to them, and I knew they were over there, but it's like I'm not going to go knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I meet you guys?" So we minded our own business and stayed in our lane. One day we're rehearsing, and the door flies open, and Jeff Porcaro comes running in and just kind of
oh,
stands there with his arms folded. And we were sort of like, whoa, what do we do? So we stopped playing and we stared at him. And he says, no, don't stop playing, man. Keep
yeah,
playing.
yeah.
And we're like, okay. So we go back into our song and start playing. And then he turns around and splits. And I stopped and I looked at the guys and I said, I don't know that he liked it. I'm not sure what just happened there.
Right.
Then a couple seconds later, he came running back in the room with his brother Steve Picaro and David Page. And that was where things really started to happen. So it was quite a unique experience. And one of the songs I decided to play on this run of this tour is called The Other Side, which is a song I co-wrote with David Page,
That's right.
about losing a loved one and see you on the other side kind of thing. And I just thought this would be a nice way to sort of honor Jeff and Toto as well,
Yeah.
and in a way to say thank you for this amazing career that
Yeah.
those guys started for me.
So that's a cool thing. First of all, as you were telling me that you didn't want to go and knock down the door, I was imagining my father who'd be there knocking on the door, going, "Hey guys, I'm here,"
Right,
as you
exactly.
know. So you bring up a good point of honoring your relationships and the history with the guys in Toto. You'll be touching on some Logic, the song you did with David.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other big names of folks that you won't be surprised that I mention who you've done a lot of work with. Alan
Yeah.
White, Chris Squire, John Wetton, I imagine, and
Tony Kaye. Yeah.
right, yeah, of course,
TK.
Tony is, yeah, and I was sort of thinking of the guys that we lost. Obviously, Tony,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
true, Tony's doing great, thankfully.
yeah,
But the thing about Alan and Chris and John, you
yeah,
mentioned the song that you know, the album you co-wrote with John.
yeah.
Um, you've done so much with Chris. I mean, I went through and I said, all right, I'm going to listen to the entire Billy Sherwood catalog in the last
That's,
week.
that takes
So
quite a
I'm like
while.
three different versions of Love Conquers All, the Trevor version, the Billy, you know, the live in Japan version. So I was going through, okay, you know, what is Billy going to play? Because
Yeah,
there's sort of a footprint of things you've done live over the years
yeah,
through Yoso, Circa, the show at the Iridium, live in Japan with Tony, the keyboard and bass. So,
yeah.
how does a guy like you sit back and go, how do I take all of what I've done and
Hmm.
find a way to bring out pieces of it, right? How do you go into conspiracy and
I
pick
kind of,
one or two?
yeah, I know what you mean. I kind of designed this set. And it's not perfectly chronological, and it doesn't represent every nook and cranny of my career, but I tried to select the key points that were life-changing, career-changing, interactions that turned into amazing things for me personally, and so starting with Logic, it's where it's all started, and by the same token, playing that Toto song I just described all these years later, it's just full circle back to Toto where I started. So I thought that was a unique connection to make.
Yeah,
But I knew that I wanted to touch on some world trade, which I've got in there, and then after world trade is where I met Chris, which started the More We Live and Open Your Eyes stuff, and then that became conspiracy, which goes into that world, which then became Circa, and so it's just sort of this natural path. And the problem was like there's so much material, as you said, so much material to select, and I kind of wanted to be unique in the selections of things that I'd never really done, just to challenge myself to see if I could still
yeah,
do it, to be honest,
yeah.
at this age.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, so we met, I was 7 years old. It was the
Oh
talk.
my God, you're like that tall, dude.
That's right. And it's funny. There are times where we'd be somewhere and you'd go, "Hey, little Joey," and everyone's looking at me like, "This is the last guy I'd call little," and you're like, "Nah, man, you don't get it. You know, you know." So
Yeah,
you've always been one of my favorite singers, multi-instrumentalists. I remember listening to the Conspiracy album when it came out, telling my father, you know, if Yes doesn't tour and Billy tours with Alan and Chris, and you know that those are the things that I loved.
yeah,
1997, Beacon Theater.
yeah,
You play all
yeah.
those tunes. So I guess how, in a world where you also have so many different solo and collaboration records, are you choosing any Yes songs? And if you are you choosing
Yeah.
any of the stuff that you've done in the most recent albums?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to remain obviously respectful of the band I'm in currently, yes,
Yeah,
and what it's about on stage and what it plays. But I have selected the Yes songs that I don't think Yes is going to play in a long time,
that's
you know,
cool. Cool.
or ever. To be
And,
honest, The More We Live, for instance, is not a song that I don't think Yes will play that. I mean, I'd be thrilled if one day the band said, "Let's play that." Of course, I'd say, "Yeah, let's do it." But it's just not one that I don't
I
see
understand.
Beyonce. So I'm trying to be very respectful of my
Yeah,
own trip with the
it's true.
guys, and I don't want to
It's
step on
true.
any toes. And I think they understand that, and it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true, right? I mean, the band needs to think about its current audience and what they want to hear and play the things that sell and drop in hints of new stuff and old stuff and along the
Yeah.
way. What you guys
I
are doing, I think, very successfully.
and I also wanted to have a real distinct sort of, not to sound corny, but like a spiritual connection to the Yes songs that I'm going to play.
Yeah,
It doesn't get any more than that than
yeah,
playing The More We Live, which was
absolutely.
the first song I ever wrote with Chris. And I have such vivid memories of us meeting and having dinner and having an amazing time, and then saying, "You want to write something?" And a couple of days later, he's at my house studio, and we in a day sort of craft this song, The More We Live. And so very special. And what that started, that career path started from that one event. So these real visceral connections to these songs that I chose, not just the Yes material, but other songs from these other bands. And as you said, John Wetton, who is a very dear friend, and having made that album with him, It was a very interesting way it came about because you know I do all these tribute records. I was that they're not as plentiful these days.
Right, right.
Um, Probably because I've made all of them. I've flooded my own market.
That's right.
But through those process and through those records, I became, quite friendly with John, albeit over emails and
Yeah.
texts and stuff. But one day I said to him after, I forget what record it was, I said, John, we've probably done 25 of these now at this point. God, wouldn't it be fun to just write something together, and see what we do? Just kind of in the way I wrote with Chris. Would you be interested in something like that? And he wrote back and said, well, your timing's perfect. I'm producing another solo album. I mean, I'm making another solo album, and I want you to produce it, and I'll fly to LA and co-write it with you. And we'll spend time and go into your studio and do it. So he came into town, and 30 days later, we were done with the record, and we had written all that material, recorded it, got guests in such a short span of time. But it was a lot like when I got to know Chris really well, because I knew John, but I didn't know him, intimately as you do writing and spending 30 days together, and he was just such a lovely, sweet, funny guy. I mean, we had to stop ourselves from sharing stories and laughing about crazy stuff just to get on with the work, But when we did get on with the work, we came up with what I think were really cool songs. And so that's why I'm just thrilled to be able to play that on stage, and sort of honor John in the same way.
Yeah, that's
You know?
great. I mean, you went on to play in Asia, to sing and play bass, uh,
Yeah,
based on John's wishes and your relationship, and now you've done the same thing with Yes, based on
yeah,
Chris's wishes and the long history. I would encourage people to go and really think about how involved you've been since the late 80s, and the impact that you've had throughout the 90s, 2000s, and now coming back. But in the meantime, you released Circa and Circa HQ and two more albums after that. And
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
there's so much great music. And I'll just give one other plug to say, if you haven't, fans, gone in and watched the Conspiracy Live DVD, and there are some cool clips of it on YouTube. I mean, that's one of the greatest artifacts of Yes Live history, to see you,
I,
your brother,
I
Scott
know.
Bolton, who's on tour with you this
Yeah,
tour, Jay on drums, and Chris, and just the songs you're playing. I mean, it's one of the best recorded moments in Yes expansion history, I think, that's out there.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I have an affinity for that DVD because it's great memories of the shoot. We had 2 days in the studio to just get it and get the
Yeah,
best version of it that it could be. And I think we did. But I mean, to look back all these years later, and have this amazing archive of that group of people, especially having lost Chris and losing my brother, there's just something about that DVD that just has a real special place in my heart. And
me
it,
too.
it, it did it was a labor of love, I can tell you that. And
Yeah.
we went about it like that, and we had a great time, an amazing time.
You and I can change the world. The more we live, the more we learn, the more we know. From this moment on, we share the world. The more we give, the more we learn, the more we grow.
It was a funny thing too, because someone was asking me not too long ago, why did you do it so dark? Everything's so dark and shadowy. And I said, well, there's two reasons. First of all, the band's called Conspiracy.
Yeah.
So I thought, as a sort of production idea, in the shadows, give us some light that we can walk into and out of, just make it
Yeah.
look sort of noir, for the lack of a better phrase. And if you'd have seen the warehouse we were shooting in with the lights on, you would have had a V8 on a block over here, an old refrigerator. There was no way that I was going to let that be the backdrop.
That's funny.
So it was
That's
a
funny.
creative kind of concept in the moment where I said to Chris, look, what do you think about this? And he really dug it. He's like, I think that fits with Conspiracy quite well. Let's do that. So
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
yeah, so it was cool. It has a cool look, and just looking at it reminds me of all those things, those silly things.
Very cool. So, you're coming in the month of May, starting in Philadelphia, May 7th at the City Winery, which
Yeah,
is a great venue. And actually, folks should go to billysherwoodmusic.com to see all of
yeah,
the current dates and ticket links. And Billy, we heard you say that you're getting this engine up and running with the
yeah.
hopes that it will be something that continues. And I think that for Yes fans and for Prague fans, that's a wonderful thing because I think you've done so much musically with so many folks. There's so many places you can take it. And
Oh yeah,
as a fan of yours and dare I say a friend of yours, I would love to see this thing continue in and around the world of Yes,
yeah.
and it would be something
Well,
very cool.
I mean, I'm determined to do it for the love of music and to the joy of being able to play some of this stuff on stage.
Yeah.
Playing. I've put together a sort of excerpt version of the big piece with a couple of tracks on there that are sort of hybrid together and make for a longer piece.
Cool.
And to play that stuff, it was just recorded in my studio with me and Jay in there, Jay playing drums. And I think we came up with some really magical things. And so to reinterpret that now in 2025 and get it on stage to where it's actually playable and sounds
Yeah, yeah.
like I can sort of allow it to happen because it's not horrible.
The
I'm
other
sort
thing,
of kind of a control freak in that way. It's got to be
yeah,
like up to a certain level, and
right.
it's kind of exceeded my vision of what I thought we could do with it, and I'm pretty
Cool.
blown away. The musicians in the band, you mentioned Scott Walton, he's a great keyboard player and real amazing friend of mine and longtime friend. The guitar player John Thomas is phenomenal, and
Where's
it's just
Shotgun?
John Thomas is a guitar player from LA, and he's played around a bunch of other bands in LA and done some other
Cool.
things. And then Scott Connor, of course, who you know from Circa, and he was in Yoso,
Yeah, yeah.
and Scott is amazing. So
Excellent.
I told those guys the other day, it like puts my mind at ease to know that I don't have to worry about who's standing next to me. They got it. They're going to
Yeah,
be there, and it's kind of like a squad going out into the field. You're only as strong as your,
absolutely.
the guy next to you. So it's a
Yeah,
very, very good band. It's really, really good.
sure. And for the folks who really study your music or follow your music closely, we know that you're a big gearhead. You're a technician. You're a scientist, or as Malcolm used to say, freaking bloody prof, man. He's the professor. Malcolm. If Malcolm were alive and he'd be at all 10, 20 show, I mean, forget about it. Imagine that.
Yeah,
We'll,
yeah,
we'll have Malcolm in our hearts when that's all happening, as well as many others.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so when we think about approaching your music, there's layers of vocals, there's layers of instruments, and I think a lot of fans might say, play Homeworld. Well, there's two guitars and there's this many vocals.
Yeah.
I imagine that as much as you'd love to play certain things in the repertoire, there's a practicality. Even
Well,
using Yes music, there's not a John Anderson character stepping on
yeah.
stage to sing with you, so you've got to find the things that you can make work with the.
I've always gone about playing live, and you'll see it with Circa, and Yoso and all those other bands that I was roaming around with. That I go about it in a way almost like how Genesis does. Like Phil used to go out there and just sing the song, and they kind of forget the way they did it in the studio. I sort of hybrid that a bit, and I've got some good singers in the band, so I've allocated certain
Great.
parts to do this, that, and the other. But for the most part, I mean, I kind of enjoy stripping it down to its raw form because I rarely do that in the studio.
Yeah, yeah,
I tend to get carried away with myself and start stacking things with vocals, and because I love vocals, so I want to hear more of it. But I don't want to sample all those and have those firing because it just feels weird to me to do that. So I've found a way to make these tracks, again in 2025, just feel like rock and roll on stage. They're working. You know what I mean?
cool.
So I think people will be pleasantly surprised.
Excellent. So we're going to hear some Logic, World Trade, Billy Sherwood solo. Are you digging into No Comment,
Citizen.
Oneurology, or any of those kind of?
Well, there's a taste of No Comment in there, and there is a track from What Was the Question,
Nice.
and then there is a Citizen song, two
Citizen.
Citizen songs, which
Cool.
I really really enjoy playing.
Yeah, those are
One of
phenomenal.
them is called Sophia. We played a song the last time we were at the Iridium from that record called Age of the Atom. We're going to do that again because that worked really
Nice.
really well, I thought. but I've added this song called Sophia from the Second Citizen album, which is about the first AI citizen made a citizen in Saudi Arabia, I believe, is where it happened.
Right.
And I found that interesting. I wrote this song about Sophia, the citizen AI, and it's a really cool song, and it's sort of almost Steely Dan in a way, delicate and kind of refined, as opposed to this big bashing rock event. And I was wondering how it was going to translate, but the guys, brought the parts to the table, and when we started looking at it, it was like, wow, this is really going to work. This is very cool.
Cool.
So I'm really excited to do all that too. Yeah. So it's nice to be able to represent, and as you said, going further and moving downrange a bit with it and doing more tours. There's so much choices to pull and make it interesting each time. But I feel like this collection of music on this particular tour is a great way to sort of begin this thing. And it's a far different set than you saw at the Iridium.
That's so cool.
But I think it's quite cool. And I think people who I kind of was trying to pick it too based on, the fans that I know who have followed me all these years, thank God, and I'm grateful for that. But they know about Logic, World Trade, all the bands you've mentioned, they all know it. So I wanted to give them those moments like, oh my goodness, look, it's that, because they will, they'll know it. So it's going to be fun.
Excellent, man. Well, listen, we're wishing you the best. We know you're working 7 days a week, preparing and doing what you do in the rehearsals, which is that drill sergeant, we're going to kick ass mentality, and that's what makes
not a lot of drummers like me. Their problem is I play drums a little bit too, so it's a little bit like, hey, could you just make that go like that instead of that? Oh, God, funny. Right on, brother. Well, I'll see you out there, and thanks for doing it again. BillySherwoodMusic.com for anyone who wants to come check it out. All the dates are listed with links and tickets and all that stuff. And so come on out and hang out. It's just going to be a really, really fun time. So I'd love to see everybody out there.
Much love, brother. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Say hello to your family.
Will do.
All right, brother. I'll see you soon.
Ciao.